be the biggest break of the day for Andre Ribeiro. They now will be able to make this in one more stop, and they'll be able to make the stop under yellow. Could be a great shootout now to the check.
Now keep in mind, under the new pit rules, we will line the cars up, and all of the lead lap cars will be nose to tail when we return to Michigan. There is Jimmy Vasser. His service is complete. Andre Ribeiro and Greg Moore. Ribeiro, the race leader at this point. Greg Moore runs second. There is going to be an absolutely outstanding finish to the inaugural US 500, and it's not far away. Stay with us. Where the inaugural running of the US 500 continues. Bob Varsha along with Scott Goodyear. Coverage of the inaugural US 500 has been brought to you by Honda, who offers an impressive family of cars, sport utility vehicles, and minivans. By Target. At Target, you can expect more and pay less. And by Texaco Haviland Formula 3 motor oil. Controls volatility and fights vaporization. "31 laps remain in the inaugural running of the US 500. We are under our 11th caution of the day. Here's a look at our race summary. Andre Ribeiro leads. The average speed of the race to date, 153 miles an hour in change, 10 leaders. Cars out of the race continue to mount, but the attrition, as we mentioned before, has not been as stout as we thought originally it might be. Let's get down to Marty Reed in the pit lane.
Look at Steve Horn's face if you get a chance. I mean, these guys are really still concerned. What's happened is their telemetry, as we said, was gone, but they have been trying to do it by the calculator, and then the onboard dash is telling them one lap that they've got less fuel pressure, the next lap it's back. They've said, Steve asked, I asked him, where are you? He says, we really don't know. He says, we're just going to have to go and hold on tight.
Well, Steve Horn has had an interesting experience in 500-mile races, as you well know, Scott Goodyear.
That is for sure. After Indianapolis last year and then having an opportunity to win here. Really a young team, although he's been involved in Indy cars for many, many years back in the Budweiser True Sports days with Bobby Rahal and Scott Pruitt, and went off and started running the Indy Lights series, and I think they just about dominated that series for a couple of years. So we're coming back to green.
The 4 cars in the high groove. Andre Ribeiro, Mauricio Gugelmin, Greg Moore, and Jimmy Vasser. We saw Vasser go by the pace cars. We went to commercial. He's been sent all the way around to get him on the tail of the lead lap. And now we come down to the green, and Gugelmin makes his move to the inside of Ribeiro, but there's just too much traffic. Keep in mind, those cars on the low line can blend into the toe. Parker Johnstone has made up a lap. He runs at the head of the queue, followed by Ribeiro with the bright yellow nose on the car. There's Greg Moore, the blue and white players car.
Greg seems like he slipped by Gugelmin on that last restart, down through turns 1 and 2 with that big gaggle of traffic that they had there.
30 laps for $1 million is Andre Ribeiro, who was beside himself on the podium at Rio earlier this year when he won the debut race in Rio de Janeiro for the Indy cars. Fellow Brazilian Mauricio Gugelmin just behind. What will Andre Ribeiro do if someone hands him a check for $1 million US? Lots of slower traffic mixed up with the race leaders at this point. Gugelmin closed up on Moore, but now Moore drives away just that little bit. All of this dueling going on at 200 and high 20 miles per hour. Jimmy Vasser now closes up, looking for third place from Gugelmin.
A couple of things are going on here. Ribeiro wants to run as fast as possible to keep in front of the guys that are behind him, but almost go as slow as possible because he needs to conserve fuel. He wants to run that car in 6th gear and top gear, keep the revs low, keep the fuel consumption low. At the same time, he wants to try and draw away if that's at all possible.
I say slower cars. Actually, a lot of these guys circulating at competitive speeds, they just happen to be 1 or more laps down. Our top 4 cars covered by less than 1.5 seconds. Marty Reed. Oh, and Greg Moore loses an engine. The second place car of Greg Moore loses an engine in the biggest possible way. He kept it under control.
Did a great job. You saw the back end squirming the car, just almost getting the oil in the tires, I'm sure. 225 miles an hour. You saw the back end of the car doing small fishtails, and he hung on. Didn't go high, didn't go low, kept it in the center of the track. Did a nice job of bringing it down onto the apron.
230 miles an hour was the last lap speed for Greg Moore. And we saw that before when Alex Zanardi lost his Honda after a lap in the 233 range. This is our 12th yellow. We are one away from the record for a 500-mile race here at Michigan, and not one person has left the grandstand, as best I can tell. They know this finish is going to be a classic. The folks are on their feet. This is going to be a shootout. The smoke still rests on the backstretch from Greg Moore's Mercedes-Benz engine, paying the ultimate price. There you see it. Greg Moore climbs out. James Allen.
With Tony Brunetti, the team manager, Greg Moore's team manager. Apparently over the radio he said it was too bad. This was our race. Your feelings?
Yeah, for sure. That's exactly what he said. You know, all day we've just been waiting to race till the end, and you know, this was the time to go racing, and we were getting ready to do just that. Unfortunately, something in the motor let go, and you know, I think this race was probably ours.
Well, bad luck. We'll hope to have a word with Greg in a second.
All right, thanks very much. There you see. Boy, it hardly serves to call it a plume of smoke. That is the story of 500-mile racing. Twist your engine to all the revs you dare, but keep in mind what can happen if you stray to that red line too many times. You see Greg Moore looking a bit philosophical for a guy barely into his 20s, racing in one of the elite forms of open-wheel motorsport in the entire world. He knows that better days lie ahead. So our 12th caution, with 226 laps complete, leaves Andre Ribeiro in the lead over Mauricio Gugelmin, and there is still a lot of blue smoke in the air out there on the infield. Here's Marty Reed.
Well, guys, right before Greg Moore's motor blew up, Steve Horn came right by me. He says, I still don't know where we're at, but we're going for it. We didn't come here to finish fourth. I looked at him just now. I said, do you have enough now? He says, well, we're breathing a little bit easier, but they still are concerned because they're getting so much false readings from their telemetry on the dashboard. So what they're reporting from the racetrack back here is really confusing them.
Well, there you see Andre Ribeiro using every yellow lap to conserve fuel. Down to Jan Beekes. Excuse me, to James Allen.
I'm down here with Greg Moore. Greg, a very disappointed man, no doubt. You said it was your race. You must have felt that way.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to this race. I mean, you know, the last half of the race, I made one little mistake. Car was lucky enough, you know, that we didn't have any problems with it. And, you know, good luck went our way for the first, you know, 2/3 of the race. And we just had one little problem here at the end, and motor broke. But it's 500 miles. It's tough on a motor. And, I mean, we saw a Honda brake. We've seen Ford's brake. And I guess now we've seen a Mercedes brake. What's been the secret today of running quick, do you think? Has it been drafting? How have you lived with the Hondas? Oh, really, it's just been, you know, going as fast as you can the whole race. I mean, we're doing 229, 228 mile-an-hour laps, and it's just unbelievably fast. Thanks so much, Greg. Bad luck. Thanks.
I think Greg Moore has a bit of a problem with minimalization. He called that huge smoky spin we saw earlier a little problem, and now this tremendous plume of smoke from his Mercedes, also a little problem. Andre Ribeiro is up front. Here's Jan Beekes.
A quick report from the Ganassi crew, in particular Jimmy Vasser. We talked to Julian Robertson, who was watching very carefully. He said, we're happy with the handling of the car, but it doesn't work well below 224 miles an hour if we get slowed in traffic. But if we can run faster than that, anything above 227, the car is happy. We think we can win this, but if we get slowed down, the car is very nervous. The faster, the better for Vasser.
We're going to stay with this one all the way to the checkered flag. The green flag is in the hands of Jim Swindoll. Down to the line they come. 3 drivers at this point still with a shot at the $1 million. Andre Ribeiro, Mauricio Gugelmin, and Jimmy Vasser attacks Gugelmin for second. Can he get it done? No.
Tried the low line, wasn't able to get through. Maybe that's that traffic situation that we just heard him talk about. The key thing here is that Ribeiro's up front. Tracy's right behind him, obviously a couple of laps down, followed by Marino. But both Vasser and Gugelmin are going to have a couple of lap cars in between Ribeiro and themselves.
Gugelmin with that little bit of breathing space before Vasser is back on the attack. Now Vasser goes low. Once again, doesn't have it when he gets down there in 1.
Can't get it done. 20 laps left to go. We're not going to want to lose touch right now with Andre Ribeiro. One never knows. Joseph, the Tasman team, is being up front and telling you that they might have a fuel problem. I can't believe that they're thinking that they might have a fuel problem with this many yellows that we've had since they first reported that they were concerned about fuel.
The field streams across the start-finish stripe. From behind Roberto Moreno comes Jimmy Vasser. He continues to press Mauricio Gugelmin. Now Gugelmin with about a 15-car length advantage. Meanwhile, Andre Ribeiro up front is no doubt scanning in his mirrors behind this battle for the lead between Ribeiro, Gugelmin, and Vasser. Roberto Moreno was actually mixed up in that group in 4th place, though he is a lap down, and Eddie Lawson, running very close to him, is in 5th place. So they're battling for position, which gives them a good reason to let it all hang out and not worry too much about where the race leaders are.
Now Gugelmin making a move underneath Tracy. Although it's not a pass for position, it's a pass for a placement on the racetrack.
Vasser looking for a way to come to terms with Mauricio Gugelmin. Jan Beekes has more on him.
Of course, one of the ways to come to terms with him, Bob, would be to go to 5th gear instead of 6th. So I asked that of team manager Tom Anderson, and he said, we are not going into 5th gear at the moment. We need to get closer.
What a battle happening here. Vasser looking for any way he can get by, trying to take advantage of Tracy being a lap vehicle and trying to get underneath Gugelmin at the same time.
Earlier, Vasser, they took some downforce out of the car, but it seems anytime he gets up close behind somebody, he loses that downforce. Maybe he's getting a little too loose when he's in the turbulent air behind someone in close quarters.
Well, whatever it is, he's got to work with it now, because if they don't have another stop or another yellow, we certainly don't need fuel. These guys do not have any opportunity to come in, and you can see how the car twitches as he's trying to make it 3 high going into 1. What a great move. Not only does he get past Tracy, he also gets Gugelmin, and now he's into 2nd.
Paul Tracy kept Mauricio Gugelmin occupied. Jimmy Vasser went around the long way and got it done. I thought it was going to get a little tight up there by the concrete wall, but now there is nobody between race leader Andre Ribeiro and the pursuing car of Jimmy Vasser.
Some great battles going on here. We saw in the back of that screen Roberto Moreno trying to split the 2 cars although he's a lap down, and he got squeezed out and had to be pushed aside. All this going on at 230 miles an hour.
16 laps remain. 32 miles for $1 million for one of these drivers. Andre Ribeiro and Jimmy Vasser. Jan Beekes.
When you saw that move with Vasser and all of a sudden he gained all that momentum, we wondered, did he drop it into 5th gear? Tom Anderson says no. They stayed in 6th. What he did was he built the momentum, he built the toe, and got a slingshot. And now he's trying to do the same thing to Andre Ribeiro, but they haven't gone into the killer gear yet. They're going to try and do it in 6th gear and not blow this Honda up.
How many revs do you take by going 6th as opposed to 5th?
Oh, every team is a little bit different, but I suspect here it could be anywhere from 250 to 350. But the key thing is that you certainly get a better run coming off the turn, a little bit more horsepower maybe coming down the straightaway, but you're also going up a little higher at max RPMs, and the Hondas might run somewhere around 14,000. But let's not forget, we're talking about Vasser. Andre Ribeiro has a Honda in there also, probably running in 6th gear. So when the time comes to go, maybe both of them will drop it down to 5th, and we're going to have a great battle on our hands.
Vasser looking low as he continues to close the gap to Andre Ribeiro. Both men winners in this young IndyCar season. 2 of the great young stars of IndyCar who have come here to Michigan for the inaugural running of the US 500. And this is what it is all about. A fraction of a second between them, traveling at 230 miles an hour, reeling off the miles with a prize of $1 million waiting for one of them. And the tension along the pit wall can almost be felt as their teams watch their guys go. There are no more pit stops remaining for either man. It is completely in the hands of these 2 young drivers. There is Andre Ribeiro's crew. Steve Horn in the white cap. Engineers nodding at one another. Does anyone really know what's going on out on the racetrack at this time? Slower traffic down low as the race leaders come through, completing one more lap.
Nice clean racetrack, no traffic in front. Great opportunity to go racing. Both these guys just starting to play games. Andre's looking and seeing, maybe is he in 5th, is he in 6th, has to go through with the thinking process. Obviously worried about fuel, we're told. Vasser trying to get a slipstream, trying to maybe conserve fuel, run the car in 6th gear. Parker Johnstone's coming in, looking at the back of the car, a little bit of smoke, steering wheel coming off. It looks like Parker's day is done. And Vassar tried down low, but didn't get the job done. Andre being able to run the car right in the middle of the track.
Parker Johnstone retires from 8th position. Jimmy Vasser, you can almost see it with his head down,